Hi, everyone. Welcome to Embodied Enlightenment. I'm Carrie Merriam. Thank you so much for being here. Today's episode is so near and dear to my heart because it directly influences me and all the incredible goddesses out there in the world. I have with me Katie Brockhurst, who is a social media angel. She is a coach and consultant for the mind, body, spirit authors and experts around the world, and she is an all-around goddess and a soul sister. Katie, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure, love. Absolute pleasure.
And today we're talking about really creating conscious thought and turning it into conscious action within the feminine space. You and I have had the opportunity to connect multiple times around how to show up as an embodied feminine goddess in a very much male-driven society where before, when I was in the corporate world, even it was the yoga corporate world, how I was showing up and what I consider to be very successful was go, 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 and constantly pushing and constantly proving myself in that dynamic. But what was happening was that it was so fragmented. I would come off as some people as a raging bitch. I would come off to other people as like the most incredible human being. I was high performer and high like get shit done. But on the inside, it felt so fragmented because I wasn't in alignment with my feminine. And you talk to people so much about that, specifically about how to show up on social media. So I'd love to get your insights.
Yeah, I mean, social media has become such a place where we feel we've got to show up in this elevated version of ourselves 24/7, 5 times a week. In order to be successful on social media, you've got to be there, present, showing up in this version of yourself that is that you perceive as successful, that other people perceive as successful. And what it's done is it's made everyone really anxious. And we've gone into that, everyone's then comparing, and we've created a burnout situation on social media itself. And so when people come and work with me, they're coming to me and they're going, and it creates a block because then they don't want to show up at all. So I've had to work with dropping into this much more feminine, softer, creative space with social media that's slower and softer, because we still need to show up in order for people to get to know us or find out what our work is. But yet showing up in that way, like you say, just wasn't working for people. So there had to be a solution. And for me, it's creativity, it's trust, it's love, it's the energy that you then put into your work, into the things that you're sharing with people that have an impact. We don't need to be in people's faces 24/7 to have an impact. And when we remember that, that's when things start to get a whole lot softer and a whole lot easier.
And you just had a book come out.
I did. Yeah.
Talking about the very thing.
Yes. Social media for a new age.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We'll put that in the link below so people can get it on Amazon. Yeah. And I wanted to talk specifically about how you showed up in your feminine goddess self while creating that book, again, in a society right now, in a culture right now that does celebrate the individuals that are pushing forth. How do you stay in that feminine grounded nature when you're launching a book?
So juicy. And it's been a daily commitment from me to not go into that energy of feeling like I needed to push, feeling like I needed to launch, working as I have with successful authors and working with big publishing companies. I've seen all sides of launch formulas and all sorts of things. And so for me, it was almost like a meditation, really, that when I noticed my body and my mind especially suddenly go into that, I'm not doing enough, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I would take a breath, come back to my conscious awareness of that voice doing that, and asking it a few questions, which is what I do a lot of the book. In the book, I call it Inner Unicorn Question Time. And it's like, what is it that this is saying to me? Does this feel good for me? No. Okay, am I doing this just because I think I should be doing this? That should word that pops up a lot, should I? And then dropping back in and going into trust. And then it would be like 5 minutes later, an email would come pop in. Katie, do you want to be on my podcast? You know, or, oh, somebody wants to interview you about this, or there's an article about that. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't have to push, because when I don't push, the opportunities come to me naturally. If I keep showing up as me, and you still have to show up, there's still a level of active commitment that takes place. It's not like I'm just like sat in my house drinking tea doing nothing. You still have to be doing something. But it was showing up on my terms. So showing up on my terms for me was, okay, how can I share this book authentically? And in the book, each chapter starts with a poem, because I've brought a level of creativity in which I wanted to create that within this space, because it's all very, here's 5 points on how you have to do this and that. And I was like, I'm going to write you a poem and let that like drop into your consciousness, because that for me is doing work. These little poems are like little transmissions. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to share one of those every week. And then I'm going to create a dialogue around that. And when I feel like sharing, I'll share. And if I don't feel like sharing, you know what, I'm in the big book's in week 3, and I've not been feeling that well this week. And so I haven't shown up that much this week. And I've not let myself feel guilty about that, because there are, like you say, still opportunities dropping in all the time, and knowing that they're the right ones rather than the ones that I'm forcing.
Yeah, it's moving from a place of heart versus from a place of intellect.
Yes, when you drop into that heart space, that's where you can really trust. And also for me, that when you're sharing things from that heart space, you're connecting with others into their heart spaces, and that is an impact that you can't put a price on. And that's not something people forget. If I was constantly going, buy my book, here's my, here's this tried and tested formula on launching this book, for me particularly, everyone would turn around and go, what? what's Kate doing that for? So I know I'm having a much greater impact showing up in that way than if I was showing up in the other way.
Of course. I mean, it's almost like what you were saying, social media burnout, that there's so many people. Like, I did a webinar last night that's like, here are the 3 formulas on like how to launch your business. I'm just like, yes. Everyone's doing here are the 3 formulas. And I think what's happening is we're creating almost a shield of not wanting to interact. I know I've felt that so much as well on social media, because so many people are in your face like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And so many of us are looking for the cure outside of ourselves. And it is a really interesting time to be alive on this planet, because it's a very transitionary time of like looking at the old way of how things were established specifically on the web, and holding space and being in that space of like trust and faith of like, no, I can be who I am, I can show up, I can move from a heart space, and just trust within the transition that we're going through.
And that's why I had to write this book, and that's why it's called Social Media for a New Age, because we need to evolve from here. It's not working for people. People were spending lots of money on trainings and going away and doing it for their business, and it not working for them. And that's not to say that they don't work, because they do, and they work for people who are very able to drop into that mindset and be that version. And it is a very masculine version, in my opinion. And there are feminines and there are masculines who can totally drop into that and go with it and nail it and make a lot of money doing it. There's no question about that. But there are equally a lot of people that doesn't feel right for, and that it has created a burnout or it has created a block. So what I am trying to do, not was trying to do, what I am trying to do is open up the conversation and just say, okay, so these things work. So what can we take from the bits that work and feel good? And how can we adapt and pivot from that point? How can we evolve? How can we iterate? The social media networks themselves have a strategy of iteration. Like Facebook say they're 1% finished, and they're always looking for feedback, and they're always doing testing in order to keep adapting and changing. So I'm like, well, that's a great strategy, actually. Why don't we mimic them? Because they've got all the money and they're doing all the research for us, basically. So how can we mimic and work alongside them to have an iterative approach to this stuff? So it's like, okay, I'm getting feedback, I'm learning. How can I, adapt from here?
So I want to ask you some specific questions about social media, since you're such an expert. The overwhelm that occurs from an energetic standpoint of where you should be focusing your time and energy, and what channels, so for me, I'm on a variety of social media platforms and I don't have any strategy. Sometimes I'm there, I've taken almost a 2-month hiatus. And I didn't lose anyone, which is really beautiful. And I just posted a video 2 days ago, like, hey guys, I'm back. But what I find challenging is that I write so much on my computer, and then I'm not really sure where exactly to share it, because the technology is what actually blocks so many of us. So what are your thoughts around technology and really just making it simple?
Firstly, choosing a platform that you enjoy spending time on. There's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Which of those do you naturally gravitate towards that feel good to you to be on? Because there's no point being on a platform that you don't enjoy, first off. So using that as a guide. Also thinking about who your audience is and where they are most likely to hang out. Are they more likely to be on Facebook, or are they more likely to be on Instagram, or are they more likely to be on LinkedIn or Twitter? And feeling that out, spending that time looking at that, not feeling like you have to be on all of them, because you absolutely don't. And I often think it's actually detrimental to have a platform where you're not really showing up and doing anything. And it's also, for me, it's energy leakage as well, in the same way, naturally, if you've got there and your energy is sort of half there and it's not, it's really leaking your energy. So choosing one or two that feel really good, and also thinking about the tools that they have. They all have quite different tools. Social media is a tool for us to reach, and this is to quote Facebook, who also own Instagram, to reach the people that matter most. And that's really part of their core concept is, getting posts that matter most to the people that they matter most to. So what do you like creating? And thinking about that. So I very much focus on Instagram, but yet Facebook groups for me has a ton of tools that Instagram doesn't. So I use Facebook just for groups for my business. My page, I push my Instagram posts through to my page in case there's a bit of a pickup. But also, who are the people that matter most? Actually, the people that matter most with me are a mix of my Facebook profile, because they're friends, family, people I've met through work, friends of friends, so they matter. Equally, Instagram, I have a community that matters. So that's where I show up. So thinking about that really helps. So tools and places that your people are and where you like to be.
I love that. Thank you. I love that you said energy leakage. That hit home so much, because we are truly leaking our prana everywhere. We're like half into so many different places, and it's fragmenting the wholeness of our energetic self in so many ways. And I think what's so beautiful about this conversation, what just kind of came to me, is it really is about the marriage of the entirety of who you are, and recognizing that you don't have to be who you are for everyone.
Absolutely. Yes. And also, I see social media, it's the digital dimension now. We're existing physically in this third dimension, and we're also existing digitally in the digital dimension. So we have to look after our energy online in the same way that we need to look after our energy offline, and really think about how we're picking up on other people's energy and how we're also giving away our energy in digital.
It is so important that you said that, because again, I think a lot of us are, because we're not consciously aware with the energy that we're offering but not receiving, depending on the channels that we're working with, that a lot of us feel really isolated and really alone, which is a huge epidemic that's happening because the energetic exchange isn't as fluid as it could be within the digital dimension. So do you have any tips or insights on how to create even energetic flow within the digital dimension?
Yes, protecting your space, as you know, like really think about how are you protecting your digital space, because when you've got particularly strangers and people you don't know accessing your energy digitally, I have clients who feel that very strongly, and I've started to notice actually with the book getting a wider reach, that I'm getting comments and things from people that I don't know, and it's actually making, even though they're nice, it's making me feel a little bit sick, like just physically in my body. And so I've actually been really playing with this, about how to protect my own energy, because I want to be able to give it out, and I also want to be able to receive. So this is a bit of a work in process at the moment, and I think it's part of it is having really clear boundaries around when you show up online. So we're not dipping in and out through our phones all day. I think having a much better boundary around that, certain times of the day where you've prepped yourself for that energy exchange, rather than just giving it away all day, you know, willy-nilly throughout. Oh, I'm having a cup of tea, I'll check and I'll reply to this comment, and because it can go into that overwhelm sensation again. And it's actually quite interesting, there was a story came out from the Facebook press room yesterday in the news, that they are releasing a set of tools for us to be able to see how much we're online. There'll be an activity report of how much time we're actually spending on the platforms, but also allow us to limit notifications. Because if you think about it, every time a notification goes off, bing, you check, and again, you're giving away your energy, and you may not be receiving back. And it is about the boundaries that you have to create for yourself in that environment.
I love it. Oh, what a great conversation. Katie, is there any other things that you want to share with the audience right now?
I think one of the really popular pieces that are coming out of the book is this learning how to see when you're in your social media ego versus your social media soul. So how I identify with that is just listening again. It's that going into that conscious awareness of when you're online. Am I posting because I want to impress, or am I posting because I want to impact? That's like one of the inner unicorn questions. And also, like, noticing when you post something, are you attached to how many likes that post is getting and how far that's reaching? I've heard people, they post something and maybe only gets like 10 likes, so then they delete it because they think that people didn't like it or it wasn't good enough. Like, are you spinning off into that space? And actually, how can you show up from a place where even if only one person likes it, it might be that one person that liked it, it just changed their life. and that's your social media soul in control, and maybe you just needed to share that with the world, and it doesn't matter how many likes it gets. Just as a little aside from that, you never know who's watching or listening. I have a podcast, and I get, I don't get a huge amount of listens, at tops like a couple of hundred. But when we were reaching out around the book, one of those people that's been listening is like an editor at one of the magazines, and now they want to do like a 2-page feature. So so then I'm going to reach more people with this because of that. So you just never know who's listening. The numbers don't matter. That's our ego part, because you just don't know how that 200 people is actually probably 600 people, because they're connected to the people that they're connected to, and then they're telling their friends, or they're this. So the numbers don't matter. Like time and space and all of that stuff dissolves in the digital dimension, in my opinion.
And this is the feminine.
Yes, it is. Yes, bring it back.
This is the leaning, but it is. This is the leaning back. This is not the need to conquer and push and define and launch, like we were saying. This is like, no, like the universe does have your back, and everyone's timeline is different based on your evolutionary consciousness and when things are supposed to unfold and manifest. And if you just keep coming back to the wholeness of you and staying within things that feel really good and leaning back and trusting and not being attached to the world of form outcome, the data that is associated to the world of form, right? We're living in this duality of existence, form and formlessness, and how to kind of play around with both, but not being attached to the world of form, and really just connecting to source of whenever it's meant to unfold will unfold, is just so beautiful.
Actually, can I read a poem?
Yes.
This is one of the ones that just speaks to what and it's actually called Social Media for a New Age. Let me find it.
Thank you so much for putting poetry in there versus here are 3 steps on how to create your best Instagram account.
Yeah, and this one will definitely speak to that. So this is the only one actually that doesn't rhyme out of all of the ones, but it seems to be having quite an impact. So, social media for a new age. If light is information and we're in the age of information, then we are also in the age of light. If love is light, then love is information, which means we are in the age of love. If social media is a place for us to share information, it is a place for us to share our light and our love. And when we share our information, light and love, creatively and consciously, we connect with and create our community.
So beautiful, sister. Thank you. Wow. All the goosebumps.
All the goosebumps.
Well, thank you so much, Katie, for being here. Thank you so much for being in my life. Thank you, everyone, as well, for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. Katie, where can people find you and your book?
So the best place is to find me at Instagram, which is katie.k.socialmediaangel. I just need to stick that into search. Or Facebook. I have a group which we're all like on board with social media for a new age, which is facebook.com/groups/social media for a new age. And the book's on Amazon. So you just search me or social media for a new age and it'll come up.
And we'll put that in the description section as well, so people can find you easily. And if you guys are listening and loved this conversation between Katie and I, go over to iTunes, give us a like, let us know your feedback, and check in with me next week. This has been Embodied Enlightenment with Carrie Merriam. Again, thank you so much for being here.